now I look like one of those people that has these fluffy microphones. I never used to do this, and I like the sound that this microphone gives because you can't hear all of the distracting noises outside, but I'm not a huge fan of this guy, this giant, you know? And I have the lav mics, but I feel like they sound really tinny. I'm gonna try it, and then if it doesn't work for this video, then we'll know for future. Maybe it's just me. You tell me what you think when I change the audio from this to what I get next, okay? Now I feel like that looks slightly better, but does it sound as good? And if I move it, I feel like that's gonna. I'm just gonna be really careful and try and not move. That's gonna sound horrible. I'm gonna try and not move loads because I feel like this is probably not a great top to wear. Can you tell I haven't done this in a while? I need a cup of tea. This calls for tea in my giant mug. Now don't come at me and say this is a Christmas mug just because it's got pine trees on. Pine trees are not just for Christmas, they're for all year. And I would say that's more of a winter mug anyway, so I like having my tea in big mugs because then I don't have to keep going back for tea. I mean, it gets a bit cold at the end, but whatever. There's something more satisfying as well about holding a big mug. It makes me feel so tiny. Anyway, trying not to touch the microphone. I love how I just said I'm trying not to touch it and then literally went to touch it. Anyway, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a wonderful week, a wonderful month. I hope you had a wonderful year because it's been a while since I started posting proper videos. But I'm back, I'm here, we're going. Am I prepared? I don't know, but we're gonna roll back into it because that's how we find out if we're getting back into it. Today's video is a good old chatty video about some things that I really wanted to share because I feel like I've cracked a code. As an adult woman who has been out of the education system for a while, I feel like this is important information to share among my peers because I feel like we all have this problem as adult people. And that is, how the heck do you make friends? I don't know if I'm the only person who struggles with this. I'm fairly confident that I'm not, based on people I've spoken to and what I've seen and heard online. But I find that as an adult, it's really difficult to make friends. As an adult living in another country, it's even harder. So this video is talking from the perspective of someone who has lived abroad for almost 9 years, but also I feel like can be applied to anyone living, even if you never left your hometown. I don't know why it's taken me so long to figure this out, but maybe it's not about figuring it out, maybe it's just having the courage to try the things I'm about to say. I found that, especially in my first few years after leaving university, then moving to Canada, I didn't really know how to make friends. Like, I think I'm gonna share something real vulnerable right now, but I literally had a therapist that had to, in my early 20s, teach me how to make friends, because making friends as human beings and creating relationships is something that is not an art, but it's a process. It's give and take. And that's not something that my brain could compute. I don't know what that says about me, but I think I was just so self-conscious that my default state was to assume that people thought I was annoying or too much or not enough or too quiet, too shy, too loud. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I really struggled with that. I really struggled to reach out to people. Thinking about it, I think it's a lot of the fear of rejection, you know? And then we're gonna go there because I'm not afraid no, I'm definitely afraid to tell these kind of things, but I'm going to tell you them anyway. Fear of rejection, I think, is probably, I'm not the only one who's scared of that, you know, rejection. That's not a nice thing to experience as a human. And I think that for me personally, and I know that this isn't true for everyone because my other half, Mike, is not afraid of this at all and can very easily make friends and is super outgoing, very, very extroverted, can just ask people. If they say no, then he's like, okay, and then he will ask them again. To me, like, if I ask someone to do something and they say no, that used to be like the worst possible thing that could ever happen to me. You know, someone saying no to me. Terrifying. Again, don't know what that says about me as a person. Probably a lot of deep-rooted things, but that's used to be what would stop me. And so moving abroad to another country where cultures are different and people are different, it makes it really hard to make friends. And so it literally took me 6, 7 years of living abroad to finally have some really good ideas on how to make friends, especially in the last year and a half. I feel like have figured out some great starting points on how to make friends as an adult. Even in situations like living abroad in a small, I was gonna say small town, but technically Victoria's a city, a small city where people are typically very, very close-knit and communities are exceptionally hard to break into. So again, these ideas are just things that I've picked up myself, things that I feel have worked well for me, things that maybe took me a while to try, but when I did, reaped the most reward. And so I want to share them with you just in case this can help somebody. I think that's why I'm drawn to make this video, is because me 5 years ago would have loved these ideas, and also just to know that I'm not alone. There's a lot of people in the same boat, and I was definitely one of those people that was in Canada and maybe had like 3 friends for a long time. And maybe not even, honestly. And not that I have loads and loads of friends now, but I definitely have a community, which I think is such a vital part and such a big part of having friends. I think that when we think of our friends, we think of our very close-knit friends, you know, our little social circles that always hang out together and we tell everything to everyone, and you know, we celebrate each other's birthdays. Like, I think that's what we think of, but I think of a lot of the times we kind of forget about or underestimate the importance of community, friends in the communities, and just even acquaintances, people that you see maybe every day on your morning commute, or someone that you see, someone who works at the local coffee shop every Saturday when you go in for your weekly coffee. I think those friendships specifically, for me, I found are the things that make you feel the most at home. The close friendships are very important. They're the hardest to find, but when you find them, they are the best in the world. But I also think that, especially living abroad, to build up a community of people, even if you're not necessarily super, super close with them, is so important to your mental health, and like, for me personally, for my mental health, and just for that sense of feeling at home and feeling within a community. So I'm gonna go through a couple of the ways that I found really worked for me making friends here, and ones that I would use if I was to move anywhere else, whether that would be a different place, back home, whatever. So the first one that I am going to talk about, and this is probably the place where I first realized that this was an exceptional way to make friends or to make connections with people, are going to classes for something that you're interested in. Now, there are so many classes. Sometimes you'll have to dig for them, and this is something that I only did towards the back end of my time at Toronto. I went to acting classes. But if you can find classes in something that maybe not necessarily you've ever tried before, but just something that you're interested in, it's so wonderful to come into contact with people from all different walks of life that you wouldn't usually connect with. So I think for me as an adult, the predominant way that I think a lot of people make friends is through work. And so when I was, especially when I left university and got my first office job in the UK, a lot of my friendships and community friendships came from my job because I worked in an office and was there most of my day. Moving to Canada, again in Toronto, most of my social friendships came from work. There was a bunch of us who were similar ages and we would go out together, and that's pretty much what it was. But those kind of friendships, as great as they can be, aren't always people that you have a lot in common with other than what you do for work. I found that in both of those jobs. I really liked a lot of the people that I worked with, but I didn't really share a lot of things in common with them. I perhaps wasn't as outgoing as some of them, wasn't as like party crazy as some of them, or wasn't as, you know, whatever, right? As wonderful as they are, I'm not gonna say work is a place to find friends, because I feel that's like everybody's like default, right? You have a job and you find people that way. But for me, classes were so imperative, and for me, I did acting classes because that's something that I have done my whole life, and I wanted to get back into it, and I wanted to find people that were also interested in it, because I didn't have any actor friends, I didn't have any theatre friends, I didn't have any friends who were interested in making videos or films or anything like that. And so while I wanted to gain more skills and polish up my craft, I also wanted to come into contact with people that were in those kind of spheres. And although that wasn't the main reason I went back to acting classes, that was one of the best things that I got out of it, was human connection. And so, for example, it doesn't have to be acting classes, although I will say, I do believe that everybody can benefit from something like that. I would implore you to try out something that you feel that you could perhaps never do, because I think that's where you get so much of a reward from. Personally, that's what I've experienced. But from those classes, I met people that had never done it before, that had done it like me and then come away and come back to it. People from all different walks of life, people that were a lot older than me, people that were younger than me, people that were my age, people that come from different backgrounds, different countries. It was amazing. It was such a wonderful way, and I continued going to classes for a number of years in, you know, Toronto and Victoria, and I met a lot of wonderful, wonderful people out there, and a few of my really, really, really good friends. So I would definitely say find something that you're interested in. So for example, Mike started getting really into the idea of pottery and ceramics, and so he went to a few classes at the local ceramic store, and so he met people that way. He's also really into wine, and so he went to, you know, events to do with wine, and he meets people that way, and then so he forges connections with people that he has things in common with. And I think that is really like such a wonderful foundation for a friendship, and I do think that you can find some wonderful people in those situations. So I would definitely say do some, you know, Google searching, ask around, have a look at like your local community boards, and just attend something that you've just been interested in. You know, there's so many, like knitting, journaling. I'm just thinking about things that I've thought of, ceramics, acting, improv, so much fun. Maybe there's like painting, art, those kind of things. Like local universities have them. So yeah, I would say as your like number one point of call, try out that, because for me that has been one of the really most wonderful ways of finding people that I connect with. Tea break, have a drink, hydrate. Don't know why my elbows stuck out like that. That's so strange. Number two. This is something that I've never tried. Well, I was in one with my old work colleagues, but it wasn't like we met a bunch of people through it, but maybe we could. But I do have friends who do this, and that is, if you are a sporty person, join a sports team. There are so many of them around. I know a few people that do soccer teams, football for my Brits. I know there's like rugby teams here in Canada. There are like ice skating, maybe not ice skating teams, but maybe they're more like classes, I'm not sure. Hockey teams. I think there's like, not croquet, polo. Mike does golf. Again, that's not like a team, but it's like a sport club. So a team or a club, you know. I'm not very well versed in the sports world, but I know that that's a really good way of meeting people. Run clubs. I know that's a really good way of meeting people purely because I have people in my life who have met very good friends that way. So if you're sporty, active, I think that's a good one. So if you're more sporty and active, check out your local clubs and sports teams. Okay, number three. This one has changed my life. It sounds really dramatic, but it has massively changed my life for the better. It has done so in the past in a similar sort of way, but in the last year, this particular way of finding people has been the greatest thing I think I've done for myself in a very long time. And that is volunteering in places, again, that you're interested in or passionate about. Now, this can take up any form, and I know a lot of people volunteer at like food banks and care homes. I want to say brownies and guides and cubs. I don't know if that's a UK thing or... No, they have Girl Guides here. Places like that. But for me, when I was in the UK, for example, I volunteered at horse stables, which was a lot of fun. Found some friends through that. But hands down, the best thing I ever did for myself while living in Canada is I started going to theatre. So for those of you who are not interested in theatre or don't think you are, just bear with me for these few minutes that I'm going to talk about it, because I could wax lyrical about this forever and ever and ever. Theatre to me is the thing I love most in the world, so obviously I'm going to come at it from a I love it most in the world kind of perspective. But I genuinely believe that theatre is for everyone. I genuinely believe that whoever you are, there is a place for you in theatre. And I think a lot of people think, oh, theatre, acting on stage, not really interested in it. I am very much interested in that. That is my driving love and force. Like I adore that more than anything. But just being in theatre for me in general, whether it's on stage or off, is a delight to the soul. And I know a lot of people who were like, I'm not interested in theatre. Some people that have never been in a theatre, some people that just got like dragged into a theatre because their friend was in it and needed some help. But whether it's on stage or off, check in with your local amateur theatre groups, your local community theatre groups. There's so much you can do. There's so much that there is in theatre. And I think one of the most unique things about theatre is that a group of people all come together to create something and then share it with the community. And to me, there is nothing more satisfying in the world and more beautiful and more meaningful and special than doing that. And you don't have to be super bubbly, extroverted to do it. I am very much not that. I am incredibly shy in real life. I'm very quiet usually until you get to know me. I do not have like the self-confidence that I think a lot of people associate with acting. Fun fact, a lot of actors, probably, I'm not gonna say most, but a lot of us are very much introverted and shy, which is so funny because we just adore performing. And it's not like the I don't like attention and necessarily being in the spotlight. It's a lot of different things I could go into forever and ever about why I love acting, but just the ability to empathize and inhabit a character is just such a privilege to me. I just adore it. But even if you're not into that, there are so many things backstage that you can do. There is lighting and sound and stage management and assistant stage management and, you know, helping with the box office or doing set design or carpentry or just, there's so many things. You know, if the theatre has a bar, like bartending, ushering, there's so many costume, props, like there's so many facets to theatre, and theatre shows need so many people to come together. And honestly, I think for me, I have found some of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life through theatre. I did when I was younger, I have done now, I've come back to it. I love it more than anything in the world. And I would say to you, if you don't have a specific thing that you're interested in or want to join, check out your local community theatre, send them an email, you know, visit them when they're open and say, hey, this is my experience. I'm really interested in like just seeing what it's about. Is there a spot for me? Is there something I can help with? I do feel like most of the theatres that I have been involved in, no, all of the theatres I've been involved in, they're always happy for help. They're always very open and welcoming. As an actor, it can be really hard to break into community theatre scenes, but once you're in, it's it's a wonderful community. It's a wonderful thing to be a part of. And if you've never been part of a theatre production, just try it once. Just try it one time. You know, go see a show and then go volunteer your time and try it out and meet the people and come together and create something. And I guarantee that you will take something positive away from it. It's changed my life coming back into it. I can't believe that I didn't do it for so long. Well, I can because I know why I didn't, but it's wonderful. And I would just say, just try it. Anyway, enough on that. I could talk about it forever. Next up, this is another one that I found some of my dearest friends, is online communities, places like social media, which I found a few friends on, local Facebook groups, local, you know, Reddit threads, those kind of things that you're interested in, like, I don't know, Pokemon cards, you know, or photography. There are different online communities, local online communities for those kind of things. And a lot of them have meetups, and a lot of them have, you know, again, it's that whole idea of finding people that share similar interests to you. And those, for me, have been really wonderful, especially if I am not feeling like going out in person. I think like these online communities can be such a wonderful kind of interim to that. And finally, this is something that's more building your wider community, is visiting local stores, local coffee shops, libraries, local cafes, regularly. Because I think that when you start to do that on a regular basis, you start to see people and recognize people, and it will start with, hi, how are you? Oh, nice to see you again. And then you start chatting with them, and over time, they can be either slow growing friendships that develop into closer friendships, or they can just be wonderful community friendships. You know, there's something really wonderful about being able to go into your local coffee shop and seeing someone that you know by name and just saying hi, hello, how are you? Even if it's just small talk. I'm not really a fan of small talk as someone who's an introvert, but there is something really, I think, important as a human to have that. And so I would definitely say, you know, local game stores for those of you who are interested in things like that, because you can find communities. I think especially like, you know, the idea of Pokemon cards. I think there are like local leagues for that, or like Magic the Gathering, or Dungeons and Dragons. Like you can find connections to people and hear about events that you might be interested in through those community ties. And it gives you a link, I think, to the wider community, which is, I think, super important and something that I very much tried hard with here in Victoria, and has definitely been super beneficial, because although in Toronto we did have it, it wasn't really on the same level. And I think in Victoria, we've definitely made like more of an effort to do that, and it's definitely had a positive impact on our lives. So one last bonus thing that I would just say, and this is something that I've learned over the last, again, couple of years, those ideas are just things that have worked well for me. Obviously things could work differently for you. But what I will say is, when you're looking for your friendships and your communities and your social circles, try not to wear too much of a mask. I know as humans that we do that. I do it, we all do it. We want to show our best sides. We want people to like us. Like, that is just built into us. But I found that the best friendships that I've found, and the best connections, and the way I felt best about myself is to, and it can be really scary, but it's to just be yourself. You know, just be open and honest, be unapologetically who you are. If you're goofy like I am, just let it fly. If you do that, I do think that you attract the best people for you, you know, the people that will love you the most. If you're just yourself, because you don't want to be friends with someone who doesn't get you as a person. Like, that's such a surface level, surface level connections are fine, but if you want to attract good friendships, you have to be yourself. You have to be open and honest, and it's very freeing. It's very terrifying at first, but it's very freeing when you just kind of lean into who you are and let all of those quirky, unique things about yourself shine. I think it's a really beautiful thing, and it's something that I have learned to cherish, and all the things that I used to be really self-conscious about, I have tried to be proud of and let it shine as part of who I am. And I think that's really important. You know, wherever you are in the world, whether you live abroad or not, I do think that's really important. So that's one of my little nuggets of things that I've learned that I'm sharing with you. Anyway, that's a lot of talking. I forgot how much talking that these videos take. I hope that this video inspired you to do something new, if anything. And I do hope that it helps you find your friendships, your communities. I know it's really hard as adults, especially like in this era, you know, it can be really, really tricky, but those are the things that I found have really helped me, and I really wanted to share them. I felt like it was really important. I felt like it's not really something I've delved too much into on this channel, and I do think that although I'm not trying to do super specific moving abroad content as much anymore, I'm trying to move it to more, you know, the travel, the lifestyle. I do think this covers everyone, and I did feel very drawn to make this video, so I do hope that it helps you. If it did, let me know. If you've got any other ideas or any fun stories, I'm not going to say it, not drop, type, leave us a comment, and let's talk about it. Anyway, until my next one, whenever that may be, I hope you have the most wonderful rest of your day, week, month, whatever, and I'll see you very soon. Bye. I'm still gonna do it.